Good afternoon, and welcome to the March 7th Murfreesboro City Council meeting. Mr. Ronnie Martin will do our prayer and pledge.
Thank you. Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this time to be together as a city family, and Lord, we're mindful for some of the events of the past few weeks, of some of the weather instances of property damage and just the fear of loss of within our community. We're very thankful for our personnel that responded to those events and worked extra hours to keep our city safe. We're thankful for the resources to provide for all those in our community, and we're very thankful for your grace, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have a ceremonial item to be presented.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. As you know, the purpose of the STARS Award is to recognize and reward those employees who go above and beyond their normal duties in providing outstanding customer service. Tonight, we recognize solid waste driver David Deal. On Monday, February 25th, while on his collection route, David noticed a lady wandering the street, apparently in need of assistance. David stopped to ask if she needed help and stayed with her until help arrived. It was later discovered that the woman suffered from dementia and had wandered a block away from her home with no knowledge of whom, what, or where she was. David is a fine example of representing the city in a positive light and showing compassion to our citizens. Thank you, David, for a job well done.
Okay. Now we have our consent agenda. Any changes? Comments? If not, can we get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. New business. Employee Handbook, Section 1013, Travel Expense Policy, update.
This evening, the city is asking for a motion to approve changes to Employee Handbook Section 1013 entitled Travel Expense Policy. The Travel Expense Policy establishes uniform guidelines for proper authorization and reimbursement of reasonable business travel expenses. The current policy is almost 8 years old and needs to reflect current travel practices. The proposed policy maintains prudence in the incurrence of travel costs. However, it streamlines the travel and planning and reimbursement process. The updates shift decision-making authority on travel to department directors and executive directors who have responsibility for managing the department's travel budget and have a greater understanding of the benefits and needs involved in employee travel. Placing this authority with those that manage these budgetary items assures sound financial decisions are being made. The policy also outlines advanced approval authority based on dollar amounts. There is no significant fiscal impact on the policy updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know Craig has something to add.
Yeah, Vice Mayor and Council, just a couple of additions to this that I wanted to note. We'll make the changes, and then before we publish the policy, Ms. Wright had a chance to review this and pointed out a few things that would be helpful in the policy, and one is for use of personal vehicle. We want to cross-reference another policy that we have now in our handbook, so we'll add the cross-reference. In 4.2a, you'll notice it says that meals not associated with an overnight stay are not reimbursed. Actually, our policy is to reimburse meals if it's out of county, and so we'll make the necessary changes there. If it's not an overnight stay, it's taxable, and we handle that as a matter of normal course. So we'll make sure that's accurately reflected. And the last thing is we have a policy if you use your personal vehicle for business travel that you have appropriate insurance on there. And so we'll add that also to 5.1 or 5.1b. We'll add the insurance requirement. So with those changes, we'd offer the policy for council to approve.
Any questions or comments?
If there aren't any, I'll make a motion to approve with the changes.
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Tindall. Amendment 1 with Neil Schaefer, Incorporated for services for Mercury Boulevard Sidewalk Project Phase 1, Transportation.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the council. I have before you today consideration of consulting services necessary to continue the Mercury Boulevard Sidewalk Project Phase 1. Staff recommends approval of this amendment. Kind of a little background information. January 25th, 2018, the City Council approved a contract with Neil Schaefer to provide preliminary and final design services for the Mercury Boulevard project. Since the development of the final plans, approximately 22 tracks consisting of 21 slope easements and 1 right-of-way acquisition were identified to be acquired along the corridor. The amendment request is to provide the required services such as legal descriptions, legal exhibits, and stakings in support of the acquisition services. This falls under additional services outlined in the contract. Council priorities are safe and livable neighborhoods, strong and sustainable financial and economic health. The physical impact raises this contract setting from $149,342 to $171,820, and it's currently programmed in the CIP. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions, comments? If not, can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion we approve as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Funding the right-of-way and easement, I'm sorry, thank you. Funding the right-of-way and easement purchases for Mercury Boulevard Sidewalk Project Phase 1, Transportation again.
Yes, we're requesting funding for the right-of-way and easement purchases necessary for the construction of the sidewalk project, and we're also requesting authorization for condemnation in the event the appraised values are not accepted in a timely manner. Staff approves this funding request. Kind of, again, a little background. On December 20th, 2018, the City Council approved contracts with Property Group and R. Rhett Turner and Associates to perform appraisals and review appraisals. Right-of-way is required, as I said before, for one track. Right-of-way is required for tracks for slope, drainage, and temporary construction of about 21 tracks along the corridor, and 1 right-of-way take. Utilizing the market data brochure prepared by the appraisers, we estimate the cost of acquiring the right-of-way and easements to total approximately $164,000. Appraisals are currently being performed on the commercial tracks, and the results are consistent with these estimates. In order to meet the shortened timeline for completion of right-of-way acquisition, we request authorization to commence condemnation proceedings if offers are not properly accepted. Since this is a state route, the Attorney General's office will be performing the proceedings. Correct, Mr. Ives?
Yes, that is correct. If a condemnation is necessary, it will be forwarded to the Attorney General's office for them to handle.
Physical impact is $164,000. And we kind of consider this as a blanket PO. and it's currently programmed in the CIP. And David and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Comments?
Move for approval. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just one additional thing, it is Mr. Kerr's birthday today, so happy birthday to
Happy
him.
birthday.
Birthday, Jim.
Intergovernmental agreement between Rutherford County and the City of Murfreesboro regarding utility installation along Ashbury Road.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the council. I'm here this evening to request your approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. This agreement would allow the construction of utilities along Asbury Road within the county right-of-way. Kingsbury LLC is developing a 157-lot residential subdivision within the City of Murfreesboro near the intersection of Asbury Lane and Asbury Road. The developer proposes to construct an underground sanitary sewer extension and a stormwater network within the right-of-way of Asbury Road to Overall Creek. The county is willing to allow the construction but not willing to take on the maintenance of these utilities. With this agreement, the city assumes full and complete responsibility for the maintenance of these utilities. There is no financial impact. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Comments?
There aren't any, I'll move for approval. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Thank you. S&ME task order, closed circuit TV of sewer mains laterals. Mr. Gold.
Vice Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity tonight. What you have before you, if I can get this mouse out here, excuse me, is a task order that staff requested from S&ME to do some closed-circuit television of our sewer mains. It's along, I've got an exhibit here. It's along Broad Street from Church just past Manny. And what this allows us to do is to go in and televise the inside of the sewer mains to see if there is any necessary rehabilitation or replacement needs. This is kind of a small picture of what we do on an ongoing basis. We've spent about $4 million this year in sanitary sewer rehab, and just, I know I say we do a lot of work to try to repair and replace the infiltration in our system, and this is just an example of that. This is kind of the diagnostics we go through to make sure what needs to be replaced. So it's a $20,500 task order, and we would request, we have a master services agreement with S&ME, and we'd ask for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman,
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye. Department Participation Veterans Plaza, off-site sewer.
Yes, this is a private development that's occurring, but we again, on the screen, we have developed sub-basin area master plans, and this is kind of our routing of how we see gravity sewer going throughout our service territory. You can see the Kroger site right there at Veterans Parkway and Highway 96. We needed them to deepen the sewer from and also go from an 8-inch to a 10-inch diameter. So under our policies for participation, when we ask people to go greater than 12 feet deep or we ask them to upsize the line, we pay the differential between an 8-inch line at 12 feet. So this is a somewhat small participation amount. It's $15,550. But again, just wanted to kind of demonstrate to the council how we work with development and participate when we have a need for deeper sewer or larger diameter. So we would request your approval on this.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Amendment to City Hall Access Control System purchase.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of City Council. In December of 2018, City Council approved the purchase and installation of an access control system for the City Hall building for a cost of $52,780. We request the approval of additional hardware and services to secure 6 additional doors and add intercoms with remote access abilities to our first floor hall and mail delivery area. This addition will totally secure all departments and employee-restricted access areas within the building. The vendor has agreed to honor the original per-unit hardware pricing for the additions proposed. The cost of this addition is $15,851. Total cost of the complete installation is $68,631. It's the recommendation of the Information Technology Department, along with Facilities Management Department, that the City Council approve Amendment Number 1 for the purchase and installation of additional hardware and services of the access control system to be installed in City Hall. The amount budgeted for the City Hall renovation is sufficient to cover the adjusted cost. Open for any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Resolutions. Adopt Resolution 19R03, Electric Department Tax in lieu of payment.
This is something we do every year. They pay us an in lieu tax based on a computation that is based on their assets and our tax rate. And this year's tax goes down a little bit, $136,548 from last year because our tax rate went down. But their value did go up. And there are representatives here from the electric department if you have any questions, but we'll be glad to entertain those.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. On the boards and appointments, commission appointments, if it's okay that we do one motion for the reappointments and then combine all the new appointments into another motion, all in one, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Murfreesboro Art Committee, we're going to reappoint Patience Law, Greg Lyles, Barbara Hodges, Leroy Hodges, and Lee Remick, and their term will expire January of 2022. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. And we're going to combine Board of Zoning, Gateway Commission, and Planning. Board of Zoning appointment Misty Lavender Ford. She's going to fill the vacancy by Frances Mosby, and her term will expire on June the 30th, 2021. Gateway Commission appointment of Lynn to fill the vacancy of Philip Seagraves, and his appointment, her appointment will expire on January the 1st, 2021. And the Planning Commission, Chase Salas to fill the position vacant by Bob Lamb, and his position will expire on June 30th, 2021. Can we get one motion for all three?
Move for approval. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye. Any payments, statements?
There's not. Thank you.
Okay. Other business?
We do have an item by the Water Resource Department. 2 items. All right.
One item, I apologize, this was something that I took before the Water Resources Board, and I just failed to put it into the council folder, so Michelle didn't get it in the normal agenda. But this is we've had some recent retirements within the Water Department, and we are wanting to take, one of those retirements was a full-time plant shift supervisor, and create 2 part-time operators from that full-time. So we see savings there, not only from the hourly rate, but the fact that we're going to forego paying benefits. But John Strickland out at the Water Resource Recovery Facility believes that 2 part-time plant operators would be more efficient. Also, we had accounting specialist 1 to retire, and we want to reclassify that into a customer service clerk. So that, again, is a lower pay grade position. So I've been told we need to bring when we want to change the number of seats on the bus or reclassify, we need to bring those before the council. So I would ask for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye.
The last item I have is there's an emergency sewer repair to our southwest sewer interceptor. I do have an exhibit here of where that's located on the Glenn Hutchison tract, right off of across the river from Warrior Drive. We're not sure if we have a blockage or if we have a collapsed pipe, but we have worked with the city manager and gotten a emergency purchase for bypass pumping in the amount of $45,000 roughly. This is a 27-foot deep pipe, so we're asking for an allowance effectively of $250,000. We're soliciting quotes, not necessarily bids, but quotes from these 3 contractors that are qualified. But we do want to recognizing this is a very difficult project, and we want to make sure that the contractor is awarded the project, so to speak, is the most responsive and responsible contractor there. So we would ask for your approval for a $250,000 allowance for this pipe repair, if it needs to be. Hopefully, it's just a blockage.
What's the 3 contractors?
It's Garney Construction, SBW Constructors, and Jacobs Construction.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Mr. Tindall, did you have something?
Nothing here.
Any other business to come before the council tonight? If not, be blessed, and we stand adjourned.